Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Mierda, maldito, puta, carajo.
Consider yourselves warned. Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we go over the Rocky Horror Picture Show in excruciating detail, one whole minute at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Leandra.
And I'm your other host, Kelly.
And today we are joined by our gal Tuesday through Thursday, Oscar.
Hi, thanks for having me back again.
Yeah, it's been a whole minute since we've seen you.
Oh gosh, just too long.
Yeah. So this is minute 8 of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And so the last minute left off with Janet saying to Brad, I can't believe it. An hour ago she was just plain old. And this one begins with her saying Betty Munroe. And now she's Mrs. Ralph Hapshat. And then Brad says, yes, Janet, Ralph's a lucky guy. And starts wandering away. Yeah, and she starts agreeing with him over enthusiastically. And so he says, everyone knows that Betty's a wonderful little cook.
Yes.
Ralph himself, he'll be lined for a promotion in a year or two.
Yes.
Exactly. And then he turns around and says, hey, Janet.
Not yet.
Oh, no?
I might be lying.
No, that's it. He turns around because
it's
Ralph himself will be around because he throws his arm out.
Oh, never mind, Kelly. I'm on crack. It starts at the beginning of. Okay, sorry.
It's crack that you smoke.
Is it the crack? It's crack.
Hey, Janet. Yeah,
he turns around and he says, hey, Janet. And she says, yes, Brad. And he says, I've got something to say. And then, then she, it's very porny, her acting. I'll get into this in a minute, but I love Susan Sarandon's acting in this moment in particular. But anyway, so he says, I've got something to say. And he says, I really love the pregnant pause, skillful way you beat the other girls to the bride's bouquet. And
Brad.
Yeah, Brad. We're about to head into a song. It hasn't started yet.
You hear the beginnings of the song.
Yeah,
and then right when he puts his hand on the tombstone is when the minute ends.
Exactly. Yeah, Brad kind of puts his hand, braces against a tombstone to start singing. We have heard a little bit of a musical sting in the background. So that's the minute. And
all that happens at that minute.
Yeah, it feels so much longer than a minute to me when I'm playing Janet because there's so many long pauses where you just kind of have to sit there staring at Brad or chasing after him. But it's great for callbacks, which we'll get into in a minute.
So we've talked a little bit about Janet's just fantastic acting in this. This starts with the most expectant inhale and her just looking at Brad going, I wish to fuck that I had telepathy.
Yeah. It's amazing, her acting in this. And Janet is not, I have found among people who perform Rocky Horror, she's not a favorite character. She is one of mine, if not my favorite character. I love her because she's got this over-the-top Susie cream cheese quality at the beginning, and obviously we know she's going to undergo a transformation, but Susan Sarandon just packs on the cheesy, like, soap opera acting, and it's so funny to me. And yes, like Leandra said, she goes, now she's Mrs. Ralph Hapshat. And then looks up at Brad and stares at him. And he does not take the bait, by the way.
No, so we've talked about soap opera. The thing that Brad does next looks straight out of a telenovela.
Yeah.
He turns his head and then kind of melodramatically walks away. And he's like, yes, Janet, Ralph's a lucky guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That for anybody who doesn't know, that's my Janet voice whenever I play Janet. Like, every time she's talking, say, "Wow, I think that just an hour ago she was playing old Betty Monroe. Now she's Mrs. Ralph Hapshot."
Yeah. Oscar does
Brings the house down every
voices,
time.
and it does make me laugh a lot. He's broken me many times on stage.
It's my job.
Last minute, I was bitching about how Brad made no attempt to sound like he was happy to be around Janet. In this piece, he's just kind of going with that still. Like if you put your tinfoil hat on and you're going like he's walking over to the cemetery so that he can see if he can get to his car before she does. Everything that he's saying is just so like, yeah, everyone knows that Betty's a great little cook. He has no interest in marrying this wench.
Yeah, this is like it's such a good performance of like, I guess I have to do this, you know?
Yeah. Can I give a different perspective on this?
Of course.
Based on the way I see Brad walking and carrying himself, I think the opposite. He's trying to keep his. When you perform as Brad, your song is coming up. This is your big moment. This is your moment to have big hand gestures, big, go all out. If you're that kind of Brad, all Brads perform differently. He's keeping that in because he's trying to not tip his hat that he's about to take a ring out. I always took the scene to mean that, where he's sort of building up to it, being like, yeah, getting married, becoming Mrs. Benny Monroe to Mrs. Ralph Hapchat, that might happen sometime in the future. Probably soon, wink, wink. Like that's kind of like that's how I took that scene.
And like, of course, when I'm playing Brad, I don't go, oh, am I gonna break up with this bitch and end the movie?
Do you,
No,
Leandra?
no. What I do is other than complain about all the clothes that I'm wearing,
Oh God.
what Brad's really doing is he has like this very nervous energy, like, oh, is she gonna say yes?
Yeah, that's true. And I will say that in the next minute and the rest of the song, he does have a very similar to Janet. He's got an over the top earnestness to him that's really funny too.
Nervous dick energy? Is that
Yeah,
a thing?
NDE. Yeah, it is now.
Yeah.
It is.
That's when you know they're just gonna blow their load before you even touch them and try.
Not a problem I've ever had.
Uh, yeah, I wish I could say the same.
But I have some good news about this minute.
What's the good news?
We discover that the old people are still alive, and then they leave to get murdered by Perry Bedden, who's in the woods still. He's still out there.
Oh yes, they walk by. That's right. I always forget they're there until somebody. But that's a great callback though. Like I love it when if you listen closely, which most of the times you can hear it in most theaters. They're like, I always cry at weddings, and then people are like,
And
oh,
laugh at
at
funerals.
funerals. I love that callback.
So as we're walking over here, though, we see an angel statue, and I know it's not actually jacking it, but I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah.
Gonna go be jacking it in San Diego. Jacking it, jacking it, jacking it, jack. Whacking it, whacking it, whacking it, whack. Jacking it, jacking it, jacking it, jack. Jacking for the Lord.
What the fuck?
You never heard that song? Oh my god!
No! What was it? A top 40 hit?
It was done in South Park. They were making fun of this guy who had a nervous breakdown in the middle of a Los Angeles street, completely naked, and like someone was walking by and is like, "That guy's jacking it," and then they made a whole song from it.
I see.
That checks out.
Are we gonna get a copyright strike?
Hopefully not.
I also, another thing I noticed in that cemetery was there ain't shit on any of those headstones.
Not so much.
Yeah, they are the laziest prop headstones.
And Oscar, you may not have heard this in a minute yet, depending on what has been released already, but There's no Denton Episcopal Church anywhere. This was all on a back lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was trying to look at the sign during the last minute, and I was like, "Is this an Episcopal church? Like, what are the?" Because you only see the end of the letters. I don't know if you. I wasn't able to see the Episcopal. Oh my
That's
God,
how it's pronounced.
Episcopal church,
Popaloptic.
Apopaloptic church.
So, as you get over to the billboard, which I'm sure we will talk about ad nauseum, if you squint just far out into the distance, you can see lampposts on the way, way, way back of the lot.
Well, that's good.
So
I
you
mean,
can even see that it's that this is clearly like not a real place. You don't see any roads anywhere. It's just a big old field.
it must be strange filming in a place like that because you're supposed to. I mean, this takes place in the real world, and this is the most we get of the real world in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And thinking back on it, it needs to look like this. You know, you need the castle to be magical. You need the castle to look as crazy as possible. And just having this big field with blank tombstones and a dull church just really sets it up for later on in the movie when things just go wackadoodle.
So, and then we also hear I had never noticed this before, but we actually do hear some thunder. Uh,
I I remember this particularly well because Oscar and I were in a shadow casting adventure in the faraway land of West Virginia, and the the sound didn't ever come on. So it was just the video. So we all took turns just doing the lines, doing the sounds in the background, and Oscar said, "Boom, da boom, boom, boom,"
That was
and
my
that's what I
thunder.
hear.
It was quality thunder. The quick story on that: the sound did not come on after an hour of pre-shows and pre-show games, Virgin games. The sound did not come on until we got to bedroom scene.
we did a whole show once with no sound, and
What?
we just winged it. It was wung it. It was truly amazing that anybody stayed in the audience, but it was also very, very fun.
Was this the
Or no, we had
one?
no movie. We had
No,
no
it was
sound
no
movie.
movie. Yeah.
We were literally just performing in with nothing on the screen.
So you had to do
Unless
the whole movie
that's
from memory?
Yes, we did. Yeah. But yeah, the I had never noticed this thunder before, and I guess it's foreshadowing of what's to come.
I think the thunder was the first part when you listen to the commentary where Patricia Quinn and Richard O'Brien talk about how the producers really wanted to go for a gothic feel for the movie, and that this is the point where you start going into that gothic mood. I think for the movie because you know something's building up towards something happy, and yet ominous clouds and a thunderstorm looms ahead. I love that.
Oh. Yeah, that's interesting. Because yeah, I mean, of course there is a storm coming. Honey, you got a big storm coming.
I got your big storm right here.
no, you don't, honey.
Hey, shut the hell up. Oh my god.
So, I also wanted to say with all of the ridiculously long pauses, was this just really intentionally setting up for callbacks?
I don't
Because,
I don't think
um,
so.
yeah.
It's
I mean,
interesting.
the show, of course, had been out, and callbacks were a thing by the time the movie was made. So it could have been intentional. I don't know, though. What do you
I
think?
do I do know whenever we watch the musical callbacks, if they allow callbacks at the musical, they're very difficult because certain scenes they just rush through them. Like there's no pauses, there's nothing. The musical is still as long as the movie, and yet the pieces just sort of fit in a way where even though the musical I believe goes faster, you can't fit in the callbacks because of that, and then you still are offbeat with the movie. I always recommend sometimes if you can watch a musical twice, you should because those pregnant pauses are not pregnant. There's no baby there.
Yeah. So, okay, so I mean it makes sense too that it could have just been there for emphasis, but like especially when he says I really love the he that pause is ridiculously long before he says skillful way. That's just what I was thinking.
And it definitely throws me off when you watch it, the musical, because it's literally, you know, Janet has her quick spiel. Then he goes, "Yes, yes, Janet, Ralph's a lucky guy." Well, just and then he says his other things really quick in succession, and he goes, "I really love the skillful way. You beat the other brides to the brides, the other girls to the
Girls.
bride's bouquet." Sorry, I don't
I
think
know
about
that's not a
girls
word
much.
that, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You beat the other girls to the bride's bouquet. Oh, Brad, and it just, the pacing is just
Yeah.
so different.
I think that a part of that is the beginning of the music is already out there for right at the beginning of Hey Janet, Yes Brad. So you're already starting to get that kind of over the top melodramatic musical acting, and there's a
Yeah.
bit of a rhythm to it.
And a dramatic soap opera turn. Say, Janet.
Yeah. Speaking of this long pause, normally the callback here is for the audience to yell various words that begin with S before he says skillful. And I just wanted to check in with you guys what your favorite S words are to yell in this moment.
I say slutty, sexy Susan Sarandon.
I always try to work in Susan Sarandon because I think that's funny.
That's
Uh,
required.
but I've heard slutty, sleazy.
A quick tangent. Whenever Brad turns around, it, if you want to know if someone's a judgmental Brad, they'll be the first ones to say, "I wonder if this Brad has red lining in the jacket," because that's really the main place when you see it. When he turns around, he has that red lining in there, and when it comes to the super duper screen accurate crowd, they're just like, "He doesn't have red lining, mine does."
And we've talked a fair amount about Sue Blaine and how I think that she knew that this was going to be at least cosplayed or shadow casted, and she hates shadow casters. I don't know if this is actually true,
Really?
but no. I just assume, given the fact that she does shit like that. And Janet's wearing this double breasted lavender skirt suit, and it's incredibly conservative up top, and then like almost too short for it to be as conservative as it is up top. I don't know. There's something about it that I'm just like living for.
Yeah, it's bad. It's a bad suit.
To jump off the shadow casting aspect, it's just a joy if you're able to sit either in the aisles or in the front seat of any theater or cast that's doing Rocky Horror, because you get so many opportunities as an actor to or a performer to just do stupid stuff. When he turns around and he goes, "I have something to say," I always just go, "Yeah," and it's so dumb, but the audience always laughs every single time whenever I do that.
Oscar is chaos. I'm not sure if our viewers at home are aware of that, but
I'm not
They
Oscar is
are now.
chaos.
I make distinct comedic choices.
Choices.
Did you have anything else for this minute, Leandra or Oscar?
Yeah, I have a couple of things that just talking about the billboard and also some Janet stuff, but going kind of back in time to the billboard. Uh, if we're pretending that this is in the real world, then there is, in fact, this billboard in a cemetery for Denton, the home of happiness. I'm trying to figure out who that target audience would be. But I do love the callback of because the billboard has a heart with an arrow through it, and the arrow looks like it's pointing a little bit above Janet. So you say, wait, the home of happiness is in Janet's hat? And then the callback to the callback is, no, it's 6 inches lower. She's wearing the wrong shoes.
I never heard the shoe part. Oh my god, I gotta use that one in the future. I only had a quick comment about how some casts. Sometimes that people were like, "We're gonna have all these props," and they just stuffed the beginning of this scene with props everywhere. You got a tombstone, you got a sign, Sometimes you have people dressed up as the angel, or they get an angel statue, and then you note that the amount of props start to drop off because they were like, "We're making too much stuff. We're tired."
So, one final thing about Janet in this. She just keeps fidgeting with the flowers as Brad is pouring his heart out to her. And I just love that. I've never held a bouquet and just wanted to pick shit out of it, but I don't know. I'm sure that it's natural for some people, and it certainly looks natural when Susan Sarandon does it.
I mean, she's so shy and demure, you know. There's a big hunk of man in front of her, and she's like, "Oh."
Oscar, have you ever fondled a bouquet when somebody tries to tell them your tell you about their feelings?
No, I usually am the one taking off the garter at the wedding.
I see. So the groom.
Yes. I don't fondle bouquets. That's not my brand.
There's a callback here that, as far as I can tell, I made it up because nobody else says it and nobody thinks it's funny, but I think it's really funny. So who knows? But Brad says, beat the other girls to the bride's bouquet, but I always say bride's bukkake. And I think that's great.
Isn't it usually beat the other girls with whips and chains to the bride's bouquet? Same thing.
Yeah. Yelling whips and chains is definitely the classic. I've heard Leandra do bukkake. I definitely laughed.
But if you're the originator of that, I am terribly sorry. But until you step up and take claim of that, I'm going to say that that's my baby. Bukkake's my baby.
I'm trying to think what other callbacks I know in this one. Of course, when Mrs. Ralph Hapshat, people always say have shit will travel. I've never particularly liked that one. I think it's a weak callback. Any thoughts? But every time I've ever seen the movie, people say it.
I think it's one of those callbacks because it just jumps off the tongue so easily and easy to remember. I think that's why people get a little spoiled on it, you know, especially if they've only seen it with an audience once before. You know, there's certain callbacks that are just easy to remember.
That's true.
And that people go over sometimes during the pre-show. And I think that's why people latch on to it. But in terms of like creativity, spontaneity, it's a 50-year-old callback on a 45-year-old movie.
When he says, "Yes, Janet, Ralph's a lucky guy," I enjoy to say, "No, he's not. She's got the clap too." Another old classic, but
it irritates me when I go to casts, and irritate is a strong word. I don't actually care, but I find it interesting. Yeah, I am definitely an irritant. But when people, instead of saying, "No, it's not, she's got the clap," they say, "No, it's not, she has syphilis," because I think that that's one of those things where the more you hear callbacks and the more they kind of get filtered through people and somebody heard it at a show and they're trying to make it work, it eventually becomes a callback that either no longer makes sense, or is not quite as optimal.
No, I like to stick with the classics because,
well, classics are timeless. You know, you have so many callbacks from yesteryear that no longer work anymore because nobody gets the references. And a timeless callback will always be a great callback.
I think that might be a good way to end it, though.
Yeah, this is it's a quiet minute, but it's a great build-up toward a climax.
Well, Oscar, you're gonna titillate all our audience if you keep talking like that.
That is my job. They're currently, what's the word? When they're through with the foreplay. They're ready for the main event.
Oh, I see.
Is that something?
Remember the word foreplay? It comes up infrequently for him.
You know, you gotta keep it. You gotta keep him titillated.
Yeah, Oscar's on Grindr. You can look him up.
Oh my gosh, not right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that an accusation? Oh, I'm sorry.
No. We love Oscar. Anyway, I think this would be a good time to sign off the way we sign off every minute.
Now,
You
you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So get the fuck out.